Hello everyone, I'm back with a video today, and this is a pretty long video because I'm making 5 different cards. I'm using the scraps from the bookmarks that I've made previously to show you how you can use all of your scraps to put together some really nice cards. It's been a little while since my last video. I have been trying to do one video every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I wasn't able to on Friday this past week. My son had off school, so it made it a little bit more difficult to get a video done. But this video is really long today, so that kind of makes up for it. For this first card, I took one of the Galaxy bookmark scraps and I cut it down to fit onto this A2 size card and glued it on there. And now I'm taking another piece of white paper and cutting it down for the top. I'm going to pop that up on foam tape to give it a little bit of dimension there. If you see the side there, there was a little bit of an edge, so I just cut that off with my scissors. I pulled out this die set. This is from Stampin' Up! I'll have the exact name of the die set in the description below, and all of the other materials that I used for all of these cards will be down there as well. I just pulled out this one die that says congrats. I figured, you know, the end of the year is coming up and I'm going to need a lot of congratulations cards for people graduating, so might as well start now. Though now that I think about it, I can't think of anybody that I know that is graduating. But I'm sure some people will come up that I just don't realize are that old yet. You know, time flies, and before you know it, all these people are graduating that were just babies, you know. In order to glue this tiny little sentiment, I used my Tombow glue and I put little dots all over the back and picked it up with my tweezers in order to place it. Oh, you know, I just thought of somebody I know who is graduating. And I used to babysit them when they were about 3 years old, so it's pretty crazy. Anyway, right here I just took my Wink of Stella brush and went over the sentiment to make it glittery? I can't talk right now. Glittery. So it looks pretty good right now, and I could have ended the card right here, but I decided to take out some stars and do some embossing. I pulled out this stamp set from Hero Arts. I believe this stamp set is called Year-Round Sentiments. It's a really good stamp set to have in your collection. I pull it out all the time. It has some really good basic sentiments on it, like thank you and I miss you, and then some hearts and stars, and then a couple of more special sentiments that you wouldn't see very commonly. I really like the one that says, hello handsome. I think there's also a happy birthday on there, which is always good. Yeah, there is a happy birthday on there. So if you're just starting out with card making, I would really recommend this stamp set as a starting stamp set. Anyway, back to the card. I used my Versamark ink to stamp the stars. I just took 3 stars and stamped them a few times. And now I'm taking this silver embossing powder and I'm going to do some heat embossing of these stars. These cards that I did with the scraps are fairly easy. This is actually probably the most complicated of the 5 cards that I made. So I let my heat tool heat up for a while and then I brought it to my paper. If you've never heat embossed anything before, it's pretty easy. You can tell that it's done because it'll kind of get shiny and change color. After I heat embossed this, I saw that the one star there on the right hand side didn't stamp all the way. So I'm just going right over the top of it again. And I'm gonna just heat emboss right over the top of that. Any embossing powder that happens to stick to areas you don't want it to can be brushed away with a paintbrush. Okay, so now this card is almost done. I'm just gonna pull out my white gel pen and add a few more little stars because I wanted some stars that were a little bit more noticeable, a little brighter. And like I said, this was the most complicated out of the cards that I did today. And it's not that complicated of a design. The most complicated thing about it was all of the embossing that I did. But you could even skip that part if you didn't want to do it. All of the cards today are very similarly designed. They could almost belong in a set together. And I wanted it to be a very simple design that I could put together really fast, get a lot of cards done really quick, and use up my scraps. The next card that I'm putting together is using that scrap from the blue bookmark, and I'm doing pretty much the same thing, only instead of taping it to the bottom of the card, this time I'm taping it to the top of the card. Instead of die cutting a sentiment for this card, I decided to just stamp it. So I'm taking this stamp that says "Thankful for you every day." I'm pulling out my Versamark ink for this because I'm going to emboss it. Now you could just stamp this in black ink and still get a great card, but I just enjoy the raised up kind of shiny look of embossing, so I decided to emboss this in black. I really love the sentiments in this stamp set. I love the way that they were designed. I'm not sure what the name of this stamp set is off the top of my head, but I'll look it up and make sure that it's in the description below. I use this large paintbrush all the time to sweep stray embossing powder off of my work area. Embossing powder tends to get all over the place. I've also seen people use like a microfiber cloth to get it off. Also Swiffer cloths tend to work really well to clean up embossing powder. Once that sentiment is dry, I'm going to figure out where exactly I want to place it on the card, and then I'm going to cut down this white sheet to the size that I want it to be. And then again, I'm going to pop up the white part to give it more dimension using some foam tape. Very similar to the first card, some small differences in the layout, but basically the same idea. I decided I wanted to add some sparkly gemstones to this one. This is something I always struggle with, the layout. I could just place them and call it a day, but I always overthink it and try to figure out the very perfect layout of these gems, and it always takes way too long. Let me just speed up the video here really fast so it doesn't look like it took me 10 minutes to do this. And there we go, look at that. It took me no time at all. It's perfect. So moving on to the next card, this is with the purple galaxy that I did. And again, it's going to be another design that's very similar to the first two. If I wanted to, I could put these all in a little set and like give them to somebody as like a card set that they could give to people. I decided to change this one up by embossing the sentiment onto the galaxy part of the card. I prepped the area for the sentiment with my powder tool, and then I took my Versamark ink again and stamped the sentiment. And I'm using the same exact sentiment as I used in the last one, which says "Thankful for you every day." This time I decided to use my white embossing powder. When you do heat embossing and you use a powder tool, you'll find that that powder residue stays on there a little bit, so you can just wipe it off with like a microfiber cloth, or do what I just did and wiped it off with a paintbrush. I put a little mark on the back there so I knew where to cut it, and then I decided to pop up this part of the card instead of doing another sheet of white paper. And Then for a final touch, I'm going to take out my gel pen, my white gel pen, and do some little stitch lines across the top. Again, this is a very simple design to do with your scraps, but something that you're gonna want to keep in mind for all of them. It's a simple design, but it's a great one. Especially when you have really nice scraps from a piece that you worked really hard on, and you don't want those to go to waste, so this is a good way to use them. This fourth card is going to use that green and yellow scrap piece. Now for this card, my video, my camera died halfway into this card, so I don't have half the recording for this card, but I think that's going to be okay because the final card that I did is actually the same exact design. So you'll be able to see exactly what I did in this card when you watch the final card. I'm not going to talk much about this card, and I'm just going to speed through to the next card so you can see exactly what I did on both cards. Here's what that card ended up looking like in the end, so it's a little sneak peek for what this next card's gonna look like, just different colors. For this one I used the reddish orange kind of fiery background scrap. Cut that down to size, and then I am prepping it for embossing. Just putting a little bit of my powder tool there, and then I'm gonna take the Versamark ink to stamp this. I used my Fiskars stamp press to stamp these sentiments. My stamp block was a little too small for these, so I had to use that. A little bit of a spoiler, I do know that I'm getting a Misty tool for my birthday. My husband used my Amazon account to buy it for my birthday, and I got the email, and I checked my emails pretty fast, and as I was checking my email, he texted me that I wasn't allowed to check my email, but it was too late. I had already seen it. I'm still really excited about it, and he told me that I still have to open it. He still is going to wrap it, and I still have to open it, so I'm really excited to get that. I've been wanting it for a long time. Can't wait. Anyways, back to the card. I used a black embossing powder again for the sentiment, and I'm just measuring this little piece of paper out to figure out how long it needs to be. Cut it down, and then I'm going to use my foam tape to pop it up. As a final touch for both of these last cards, I decided to use some gemstones. For the last card I used green gemstones, and for this one I'm using this orangish yellowy color gemstone, and I'm just putting 3 gemstones right there in the corner of the white, and then this card is done. So here's a final look at all 5 of the cards that I made in this video. I was really happy with the way they turned out, and that I was able to use all these scraps in a really nice way. Thank you for watching. I hope this gave you some good ideas for your scraps, and I hope to have another video for you on Wednesday.